Tiffany, thank you for joining us on the Leading Life podcast. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you taking the time. Um, I know we connected over Facebook. You have an extraordinary story. That's why I wanted you on the show. So Tiffany is the CEO of Impact Solutions Consulting. She's also an executive director and registered founder for Toys for Dogs, which is a nonprofit organization. And she is a mother to a rising star entrepreneur of a daughter. All right. And I can't wait for y'all to hear this story. This is what kind of intrigued me to get Tiffany on this show to share her journey and share her leadership experience so far. And especially raising somebody that's as ambitious as your daughter is. And I'm seeing it all over Facebook and everything. So I truly appreciate you being here, Tiffany. And just leading life, right? We like to provide value right away, right? So I'm going to put you right on the spot, Tiffany, right? What is the number one thing that you teach your people, right? So our viewers can get some value right away. And in case you got to go live your life, right? Go ahead, live your life, get some value out of Tiffany, and then come back for the rest of the episode to hear Tiffany's story. Oh, you could go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, buffering a little bit there. So I absolutely love this question because my favorite piece of advice, I am a recovering, still struggling perfectionist. So for me personally, it is do it messy. Done is better than perfect. Do it messy. Be ready for the no's. Be ready to edit. Be ready to dive in and do more with whatever it is that you're working on. Because I've been rejected so many times, but at the end of the day, those rejections provide more opportunities for growth and, perfecting yourself as a leader. And I feel like, sometimes most of the time, life is messy and it's better just to get it done and not have it be perfect. And we're all human at the end of the day. So it's important to give yourself grace and kindness, especially working through, things that are going on in your life, your business life, your personal life, all the things. And so my biggest piece of advice is just do it messy.
I love that. I love that. My model for my company is persistence, not perfection.
Oh, I love it.
And that's exactly what you said right now. I teach my clients I teach them a leadership development program that, spans 8 weeks, right? But my program is based on action, right? I don't care if it wasn't a big action, right? I think we get so focused on, I got to make this giant quantum leap kind of thing. And we keep waiting until you feel like you can do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And it's like, there is no perfect time. There is no perfect time to start a business. I mean, I'm sure what's that saying? There's no perfect time to have a baby. Like you just got to do it. Just got to do it, man. And I love that you're
jump in and go for it.
You're following that, man. Cause it really is true. It can hinder us. I know I've been a victim to it of, when I first started my business and I'm like, well, my marketing has to be perfect. My Facebook page has to be perfect. This website has to be perfect. And I was sitting there like 2-3 months later with nothing, just being in the same position that I was before. And so I love that. I love how you say, like, do it messy. Like,
do it messy. Yeah. There's been times that I posted things and there's spelling mistakes. And I'm like, guys, I'm human. And spelling is not my number one thing. Okay. So here it is. Yeah. I'm not afraid to call out my mistakes. And I'm definitely not afraid to go back and fix them too. So
yeah, definitely.
I find that so many times, especially on social media, everybody puts this face or this persona or something up there. And then at the end of the day, you're like, wait a second, I'm not an AI. I am a human and I'm posting these things. I'm sharing my life with you. I'm sharing my business. I'm sharing my failures along with my successes. Like you're on this journey with me. So thank you for the feedback. Thank you for finding my edits that are needed and taking that with grace and having that compassion for the other people too. I find that so many times it's so easy, especially on social media, where we find the bullies or the people, the haters, And I love haters. I'm like, bring on the haters, because those are the people that I can really connect with, because those are the ones that you never know what they're going through behind the scenes. And if they've taken the time to make a nasty comment or pinpoint something that you've done wrong, like those are the people that I just try and kill them with kindness, because they probably need the kindness that day. And so I love comments and feedback and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, like those might be the people that will connect with you later, support you later.
Yeah, definitely. And it reminds me what you said right now about like haters. It reminds me of it was like a quote that I had seen. It was I might kill this, but it was something like, a millionaire will never judge you for starting your business from the ground up. Right? Because they've been through it. They know what you're going through, right? I had a friend that he just started his like construction business, and he's on Facebook, he's sharing it, right? He's like, hey, if you need any help on your home or whatever, right? Kind of thing like that. And I look at it like he's out there. Like, I mean, like this guy is walking Walmart parking lots, handing out his business card kind of thing, right? And my thought, like he recorded himself doing that and putting it on Facebook, like, guys, you got to be doing this, right? Hey, find me at this Walmart if you need something, even the littlest project at home or whatever, I got you. And automatically I went straight to that quote, because I was like, if a millionaire, and I don't know if millionaires shop at Walmart or not, but if a millionaire was walking out of Walmart,
they're frugal. Right? There's only one way you become a millionaire, right? It's like you're penny pinching certain areas and then you invest big in other areas, right? Or at least that's what I assume.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not gonna overpay for Tupperware. I'm going back to Walmart. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I love that mentality of like just not falling to the perfection side. I mean, I feel like it holds so many people back, especially in the leadership perspective. It's like you feel like you can't fail. You're a leader, you can't show that side. And I love how you mentioned the social media aspect of it, because one thing that I try telling people a lot of is you define your own success, right? Stop looking at these guys in Ferraris and stuff like that, right? To somebody, maybe they do want to be a millionaire. To another person, their level of success might just be, hey, I want to work a 40-hour week and I want to spend as much time with my family as possible. That's success to them. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you define it yourself, and then just follow that. Like follow that and get to that. Find ways to develop yourself to get to that. I'm like, there's so many examples out there. I think that you hear of where it's like the CEO or like the director of the company or something like that was working at this big name firm for like 20 years. All of a sudden they left, and now they're like, running a mechanic shop or like making quilt and stuff like that. Yeah. And I feel like that perfectionist in us, and included with the fear, is what drives us to not live truly how we want to live. Right? You might have that idea in your head, like, man, I would love to just be a mechanic and working on cars all day, but man, my family's gonna look down on me. I might not make a lot of money, right? What are people gonna think about me? Well, no, I already have this job as a supervisor. In 3 years, I can be a manager. So it's that thought process that they feel like they have to follow those guidelines. I'm like, dude, you really don't. And I'm like, stop looking for perfection. Stop being afraid, and just live your life the way you want to. I always tell people, I was like, if I'm ever a millionaire, you'll know. And I think it's a joke on social media. It's like, you'll know because I'll have land and I'll save every puppy that I can.
That sounds like my daughter, actually. Yeah, she would. There would be signs, and it would be all the animals. Like, there would be signs for me too, but it would be like living at a spa. Like, I just want to live in a hot tub. Can I just be one with a hot tub? That would be amazing. I always love that quote. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh, I love that.
Because the more we compare ourselves to others, like one of my closest friends, I mean, she's been a red carpet correspondent, met with celebrities, done all the things. And then I've got another friend who, is just crushing it in her life. And she's got an amazing husband. And it's like, I can't sit back and think, oh my gosh, I wish I had, or I wish I was. Oh, that's a really great thing for them. and I can't compare myself to their journey. Like, this is my own journey. And guess what? Somebody's sitting back probably going, gosh, I wish I had Tiffany's whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
all of us are on our own personal journey, and we can't compare or judge ourselves to anyone else, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, I truly, I've been a victim of that too. Like,
Oh, I am.
we all do
My
it.
green jealousy envy monster, it pops out all the time. I'm not going to lie. I am definitely not immune to that. But it's always a great reminder to be like, hey, they're 10 steps ahead of me. If that's where I want to go, well, guess what? Now I have that map that I can work backwards and get to where they are. Or I can be like, oh, I really like this from this person or that from that person. And then, then I can apply those things, But that's where I really kind of pull back to this, like, do it messy, because you never know unless you ask, and you never are going to get it unless you put forth at least that first 10% to get there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's all action. I mean, I truly believe that it's all action. It's all taking risk. How do you not necessarily even mitigate risk, but how do you look at risk? That's a big thing that I try working with people on, is just what type of risk do you have in your life, right? And how do you look at it, right? Do you look at it as too risky or whatnot? And try getting them just to work through that framework, through that mentality of, you can take small little risks, right? Or do you have to take just a big risk? Like, it just depends on your goals and where you're trying to go, right? I can't tell you, oh, risk it all, right? But your goal is like this small. The bigger the goal, right, the bigger you're going to have to risk, right? And so, I feel like it's definitely like a mentality, a mindset, right? And that's a lot of the things that I work with people, is just that mindset of understanding, right? Like your thoughts and how they lead to your emotions, which emotion leads to action, right? And I'm like, you got to reframe that, right? With the jealousy, the little green monster, when he pops up, I'm like, I look at it the same way, and I'm like, okay, I can go from like, oh, I was looking on Facebook or I was looking on YouTube, and this guy has this thing that I want. Oh, now I'm mad at him. I'm a hater, right? Or I can look at it and be like, okay, well, instead of me jumping straight to emotion, let me think about this. Just like you said, oh, okay, these are the steps that he took. I'm already doing step 1. So now I just got to follow step 2.
How do I get to step 2?
Yeah, exactly, right? And it leads to, I mean, if we just reframe our thoughts like that, we would have a better, I guess, interaction with our actions, really. I mean, and one area that I like to focus on a lot, right, is perspective. I like to focus on perspective a lot. I love one of the quotes from Helen Keller's. I always get this wrong, or I always like twist the words around, but it says I was envious of a man's shoes until I met a man with no feet.
Wow.
Right. And that's how I look at it. Like, to everybody, to me, my problems are bigger than Tiffany's problems right now. Right. It's just natural. Right. Yeah. But this is kind of my motivation and inspiration to actually have this podcast on here, because I'm like, listen to other people's stories, listen to what they've gone through, listen to all the mistakes that they have made, the fear that they have conquered, right? The messiness that they had to go through, right? And that leads us straight into it, to what is your story? How'd you get here? And how did you get your daughter to where she is? So this is what initially connected us, and this is what initially just drew me to you, and I had to talk to you.
I love it. So I wasn't going to go so deep, but I feel like we should. So I grew up, born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm still here in Las Vegas. So it's just a great place to live, and very excited to still be here. I grew up in a domestic violence home. So for me, it was very much a challenge to navigate hurdles and obstacles that I went through as a child. We were deemed one of the most severe cases. And so for me, it really took a lot of effort to sit back and realize like, how do I get out of this situation? Being a child and having no voice in the court system, and still children don't have a voice in the court system. So it's one of those things where I kind of sat back at 13 years old and I went, like, if I don't get out of this situation, and my 7th grade school counselor even said the same thing. He's like, you're not going to live to the age of 16. The rate things are going. And we sat down and he's like, listen, the only way to get out of this, some effort. So I wrote letters to every single judge with an old school phone book. Wrote letters, wrote them out, and he mailed them. And I did them every single week. And finally, multiple judges went to our judge and said, you need to get these kids in and you need to talk to them specifically. And then at age 13, I was taken away from my father immediately, right there you know, but it took the effort and me not knowing. I didn't get responses back. I didn't get, you know, I knew nothing, but for almost a year, I wrote letters to judges, and in the hopes that maybe she would hear our story. So moving into that, I thought, oh, I really want to be an attorney and represent other people in court. And I'm not an attorney, but I've had the opportunity to, you know, go to college, and I got a degree initially in political science because that was the goal. And now I'm currently working on my master's in business administration. But I realized my talents would have been better directly with the people that are affected. So I've had the opportunity to help, you know, women and children get out of crisis situations. I pick them up in the middle of the night. I drop them off at safe houses. I've also had the opportunity to help them with job and resume training. So I take my talents and skills from leadership development that I've had over the years, and then working with my clients, and I help train them to be able to get jobs on their own, to get out of those horrible situations. And then I've even gone to court on their behalf. So a lot of times they'll have a temporary protective order in place. They can't be in the same room with their abuser. So I've gone to court for them. And so in a lot of ways, I'm like, oh gosh, I really wish I could have been that Tiffany terrific attorney, but that wasn't the case for me. But now I'm able to serve in a different capacity. So nonprofit work has always kind of been my pride and joy. I really feel strongly that working with volunteering and working with organizations that give back really feeds my soul. Like, it's giver's gain at the end of the day, you know? And so having my daughter and also going through a divorce personally, it's such a juggle between, like, okay, how do we raise her, co-parenting, and then how do we, like, move her in the right direction? But at the end of the day, it's not up to us. Like, it's up to, we give our leadership to our kids, and we hope that they take, you know, the bits and pieces of us that we want them to, you know, become. And, but they run with it, you know, and I've never really been much of I love animals, but, like, I would much rather have, like, I don't know, a fish. Fishes are cool. And, but then here comes my daughter, who is just so passionate about animals and helping animals. And funny story how I got her involved in, because, you know, kids, right? She was 6 years old, just barely turned 6. We never had any terrible twos. There was no horrible, like, she was just a gem of a kid. And then 6 came. And it was like sassy 6. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what do I, can we send her back? Like, what's the process here? Like, it was bad. And it was like sending smoke signals. Someone come help, please. So we were in the middle of Smith's, which is just like a Kroger. Smith's is here in Vegas, and you know those little toys where you put in like 25 cents, you turn the thing, and then you get a toy out?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay. So complete meltdown, crying on the floor in the middle of this grocery store. And I pick her up and I haul her out. And that weekend we volunteered together because I had been volunteering, I volunteer all the time, but rarely do they allow kids, which I have made it a mission to make sure that kids are, able to volunteer. So we jumped in with hydrating the homeless, and she immediately noticed we're walking the streets. The homeless population is horrible here in Vegas, as it is everywhere. And walking the streets with the homeless people, some are dressed, some are not, and you've got this little 6-year-old running around in a pink dress and sparkly shoes. And she's like, look, they all have dogs. And I'm like, yeah, so many of them do have dogs.
Yeah.
And it's just bringing humanity back to humans. And so we still volunteer with that organization and several others. But we've made it a mission and I think it's very.
Yeah, and I love that. And I'm sorry, I wanted to kind of just jump in on that because I think what you did there is so positive. Just in like her life trajectory, I believe, right? The perspective she has on life, right? I shared this story recently with another interview, and I mentioned like it was hard for me personally when I went and I deployed to Afghanistan, and I shared the story where there was kids that were on the back of like semi trucks, like on the highway where they're going down 45, 55 miles an hour. And these guys are just either hanging on, they're sitting in the back, like holding on, like gripping one of the sides of the metal trucks and stuff like that. And I was like shocked when I first saw it. I was like, and I asked one of the Afghan police officers that was with us, I was like, hey, I was like, why the hell are they doing that, man? And he's like, oh man, that's how they get to school. Their school's like, 15 miles down the road, 10 miles down the road or something like that. And, it's 135 degrees out here. So they don't walk, they jump on the back of those trucks. And wow. I'm thinking like, and they like legit like jump, like their trucks are like coming to a stop or something. And you see kids just running, jumping on top. Right. And what that did for me is when I came back. Right. And I was a little hard on my son because I'm like, really, you don't want to take out the garbage? You don't want to get up and go to school? You don't want to get up, take a nice hot shower, have a nice breakfast, drive in an air-conditioned car where I drop you off and you get an education? You don't want to do that? Like, and it took me a while. And as a leader, I knew I had to nurture that, right? I had to like kind of share my perspective with him, right? As a father, I was furious, right? And it was just two different sides of me that were trying to teach him that perspective of like, man, dude, like you don't understand how easy you got it, right? And I believe it was that year that I took him and both my nephews to go volunteer for the Salvation Army in winter, like for the ringing the bell thing, and collecting donations and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, dude. I was like, and they told me, they're like, we went to the spot. They're like, oh, are you gonna be out here? I was like, yeah. I was like, look, this is all you do and everything like that, right? But I wanted to show them like, my whole intent with that was show them like, dude, do something good for somebody else. This is what it's going for and stuff like that, right? So I explained to them like why they're going to be collecting money. It goes to the Salvation Army to help, right? And then we went and we were like at a mall, like that was our spot. And I have volunteered us for an 8-hour shift.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so I went out there. So I went out there and I was like, hey, I'm going to do like 30, 45 minutes, and I kind of showed them what to do and everything like that. And I talked to a couple people that were passing by, like, hey, can you help us out? Whatever you got, man. You got a nickel in your pocket, we'll take it. Little things like that or whatever. And they caught on real quick that I was like, okay. And I parked my car right in front of them. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go chill in my car for a while, man. Because I wanted them to get that experience. I wanted them to be reaching out to people, talking to people. Like most of the people that were walking in were adults. So I'm like, and then you see these little 12-year-old kids, 11-year-old kids, and they're like, okay, Salvation Army. And I'm like, make an appointment. Go talk to these people. Go share, why you're doing this, why you're helping, little things like that. So I truly feel like you doing that really provides a different perspective to people. I wish, I wish more people would do it. I think when I was in a station in Korea, I believe Korean men have to have an obligation to serve in their military for like 2 years, right? Not unless it
Oh.
changed. When I was there, it was every military man that's able-bodied and of age has to do an obligation for 2 years in the military, and that provides different perspectives to men. Like everybody has a different perspective because of that opportunity. Because you can be the guy that, hey, I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada. I joined the military, and they sent me to Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe just meeting people from different cultures, different places where they live, traveling, looking at other areas, like it just provides a different lens to your life and provides you that different perspective. And like we were talking about earlier, it's just we can get so caught up in the problems and issues that we feel that are like biggest things, and then you look outside just like your daughter did, and you're like, oh, hey, this man doesn't have no clothes, like
Right.
that.
Yeah, right around
That's
the
something that will
corner.
stick with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
definitely. So,
really do hope that she gets the opportunity to travel. Hearing your story and where you've been, I lived in Malaysia for a little while,
ooh,
and
okay.
it was it's astonishing how one street you have high-rise hotels and beautiful, landscaping,
Mm,
and then you just drive not even, blocks away, and you've got people literally living on the street, living in long houses.
wow.
And um it was really wild to see that, because growing up, I wouldn't say that I had a great childhood,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I lived in a great community, and we had a great school system. And so it's like I got a lot of privileges that not a lot of people get, especially in other countries. So I do, obviously value that a lot. But it was really heartbreaking to see, the impact that we have in other countries, and the impact that they deal with on a daily basis. So I hope that my kid gets to like go and see the world and be able to experience that. We've done volunteer trips in Mexico, and we've helped
Okay.
build houses and like do fun things there. But it's all been very fun. It's like, oh, we're helping the turtles. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And visiting a bird sanctuary and volunteering there. But yeah, I think when you're like in the trenches of what life is really like in other countries,
Yeah.
then you really get a different perspective for sure.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And you can see it. I mean, it's just for me, like deploying to like Iraq, Afghanistan, like really gave me a different perspective on life. I tell people all the time, I'm like, man, one of the most beautiful sunsets I've ever seen in my life was in Afghanistan. And it
Oh,
was just like it's like an image burned in my head. Like I've never seen a sunset so beautiful, and it's just crazy to me because at the time that I saw it, I was just like fathomed by it. I was just like in shock. It's almost like I forgot that I was in like a war country. There's a war going on. People are killing each other all around us and everything. And then I'm just sitting here frozen looking at this sunset. And it just,
wow.
I don't know, it just gave me that perspective of like, wow, like you can really lose yourself in a moment. Right. And I kind of carry that with me a lot. That's one thing that I love about like going for walks and hikes and stuff like that. It's almost like that peaceful Zen moment, and I try sharing that. Now that my son, right, from like a leadership perspective, he's older now, so he just turned 23. So, and I had my son very young. I had him at
Oh,
15. So I had to
oh
grow up really,
wow.
really fast.
That is young.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
had to
I
grow up
bet.
really, really fast. I had to just you know, do what I had to do, right? I mean, I'm glad and I was fortunate that I had events that I had to overcome. I had to overcome drug addiction. I had to overcome alcoholism when I was very, very young.
Hmm.
And then that was from like 18 years old. And that's when I started like losing myself to alcohol, partying all the time, lost myself to drugs. And then I hit that breaking point. Right? I hit that
Yeah.
low spot in my life where I was just like, okay, there's no way to go from here other than up, right? And I had to really take a look at myself, right? As like, dude, you're a father, man.
Yeah.
Like you're a father, dude. Like my son at that point was already what, like 3, 4 years old.
Other people.
And I had to really step it up and be like, okay,
Mm.
you need to make a change in your life. And I remember I wasn't the best kid. I always tell my wife this, and because I would get in trouble. I was like running the streets, doing a bunch of stupid things. And I always tell my wife, like, she'll bring up the randomest things, and it really, like, sometimes it really gets to me. I'm not gonna lie, it really gets to me emotionally, because she'll mention like some kind of toy or like some kind of game from like the 90s, right? And like
Mhm.
one of the biggest ones that we have is Legos, right? And
Yeah.
my stepdaughter, she's really big into Legos now that they make like the little Harry Potter castle and like
Oh my
all this
gosh,
stuff,
those are
right?
so
So,
cool.
yeah, so like we'll buy those, right? She bought me. I love the show Friends. She bought me the
Okay.
stage of Friends
Oh,
to build the
so
Legos,
cool.
right? And I remember when we were doing the first Lego, right, which was the Friends Central Perk, the little coffee area or whatever. We were doing it, and she's like, "Babe, when's the last time you played with them?" I was like, "I've never played with Legos." And she's like, "Wait, what do you mean?" I was like, "I've never." I
Yeah.
was like, "I can't really remember like having Legos or playing with Legos." Like, I was like, "Dude, I didn't." And I had to kind of remind her. I'm like, "Babe, I didn't have the same childhood that you did.
Yeah.
Like, your
Yeah.
childhood was a childhood. Me, I was like, I was little different, dude. I was out on the streets from like 11 years old. I was already out on the streets doing dumb things and,
Yeah.
running with the wrong people and stuff like that." And she's like, "Oh my God, like I always forget about that." And she'll bring up like TV shows,
Mhm.
right? That like old TV shows, like, "Oh,
Yeah.
did you ever see this?" I was like, "No, like I never watched that." So
Right.
we have to relive a lot of that. And that's one thing that I try focusing on now, as a father, as a leader with the kids, is like try spending as much time as possible with them doing kid stuff, right? Even my son, I finally corrected myself and like got out of that life. I joined the military, and my grandfather's the one that just my abuelito, he's the one that saved me, man. Like he really did. Like I had like $1,200 in fines, and they would not let me join the military.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
told my grandfather, and I was like, "Abuelo, like, they're not gonna let me." And he's like, "Are you serious about this?" I was like, "Yeah." And that was my first. I feel like I always remember that conversation because I feel like it was my first conversation as a man, to look at my
Mm.
grandfather and to tell him like, "I'm very serious about this. I want to change my life. I want to do better
Goodness.
by my son, by my ex-wife at that point and stuff like that." And and he was like, "All right." Next day, he woke me up. We went down to the courthouse. He wrote a check for like $1,250, paid off all my fines, drove me to the recruiting station. I showed him proof. 2 weeks later, I was gone. I went to basic training and never looked back.
Wow.
Like, yeah. So it was, and I
Wow.
try one 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 big thing that I try doing, especially with leaders, and I tell this to my son a lot. My stepkids, they're still a little younger, but I tell this to my son and other people too. Is, man, sometimes it's okay to sit in your dark place, man. Sit in your dark place.
Oh.
Remember those dark moments, because something came out of that. Something truly came out of that made you the person you are now, right? And
Mhm.
I just feel like a lot of us may be scared to do that. I mean,
Mm.
even hearing about your backstory and stuff, like, it may be a little scary to sit in that dark place at times, but you can pull something out. And I don't know, that might just be me. I'm a optimist, like, but um I try helping people to understand that. Just look at it from a leadership perspective, because you are a leader, right? You're a big
Yeah.
brother, a big sister, a mother, a father. You can be a leader at work, you can be a grandfather, right? Like, you're a leader to somebody, and you got to really understand how you're leading them, right? And I did want to ask you on your story. So you led your daughter started a nonprofit, right?
Yes.
Right. And she also has a board of kids. Is that right?
Yes. Okay. So this is actually really cool. So like I said, I think it's very important for us to teach our kids, especially at a young age, to like give back and do service to for others.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but in the state of Nevada, it's very rare. There's not one right now that has a full youth board of directors.
Nice.
So with Toys for
That's so
Dogs,
cool, dude.
when my daughter started thinking, yeah, when my daughter started thinking about Because at the beginning it was just a project, right? So she just wanted to help the homeless people and the homeless dogs. And then it kind of grew to shelters and rescues. And then it grew from there. And now we help, senior citizens with food for their dogs. And then we do pop-up events. Like it just keeps growing.
Yeah.
And as it grows,
I see your Facebook.
I was like, it's crazy. It's so crazy. So I'm like, well, now it's time for you to teach others. Like you need to teach others how to make the dog toys and teach others how to do service in wherever they are, right? They might not be here, right? They get the opportunity to learn how to make dog toys, make a difference in the lives of, their local community.
Yeah.
And then we had that conversation with the attorneys because the attorneys were helping us get all this paperwork together because it's not easy to start a nonprofit.
I
and
can imagine.
I sat back and I was like, we have to create our board of directors. Obviously, we have to have adults. With the board, it's a legal entity. And so I said, but what do you want to do with this exactly? Like, this is your baby. Like, what do you want to do? And she's like, I think we should have kids run it. And I was like the
That's
whole thing.
Awesome.
And she's like, yeah, we should they always have the best ideas. And I'm like, they absolutely have the best ideas. So
yes.
Our applications are currently open right now for new youth board members. They will close July 1st. And then we will have a full board of directors of just kids.
That is awesome. And do you have to have like an adult assigned as a board of director, or how's that legal? Like,
yeah. So what's going to happen? Because it was like a whole lot of hoops that we were jumping through at the time.
Yeah.
We have our main board members. We've got 3 main adult board members. We are open to bringing on new adult board members, but they're the ones that sign off on the financial aspect. They do all the legal paperwork. They document all the back end boring stuff. Like we do the boring stuff. Okay.
Nice.
But the youth board, they'll be meeting once a month. They'll make decisions. They'll come up with ideas. So whether it's a donation drive, whether it's, they're going to put on an event, they're going to, partner with a certain organization or whatever, like it's all them. And then they bring it to our board. We have to officially vote on it, which unless it's like something wild and crazy that we can't do, obviously we're going to say yes. And then they run with it. So we'll do, check-ins with them just to make sure that they're, on deck and they've got, all the pieces in play. But yeah, I mean, it's kids helping
that is awesome,
the world.
That is so cool. And it's like, I mean, because it's even providing them like leadership skill right now. I mean, they're learning how to communicate with each other, how to delegate, how to problem solve, critical analysis and critical thinking, like all those little things like are coming into play, dude. And that is so awesome. And it's crazy. Y'all should you should post once it's official, because like I have you on Facebook and everything. You should post like a picture of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the end date for the applications will be July 1st. We'll have that set towards the middle of July, probably. And then, we'll have our first meeting at the end of July with all the kids, and it'll be a lot of fun, will be our fiscal year. So they can either choose to be on the board for 6 months or a full year. So we give them opportunities for short-term growth or to be on it for a long-term position. And I mean, we're really excited to see what these kids come up with. This last year was actually kind of a trial. In the last 6 months, it was kind of a trial. We had one youth that was in one of our high schools who wanted some resume, opportunity for resume growth. And he was great with websites and so our website is made by a kid.
Nice.
And a lot of our social media posts are done on Canva, and they're also done by kids. So it's really cool to see, them like have fun with it. And we'll have more of that, once we have the official board.
Definitely. You know what's crazy, and this is just me thinking out loud. But something you shared before, where you were like, "Oh yeah, kids have the best ideas," right? And I would agree. I would agree because they have fearlessness. Like
Yeah.
there's no fear in them. I in my program I actually have it written on there like think like a kid, right? When you were a
Mm.
kid, man, you were Superman jumping off the couch,
No
doing all
fear.
this crazy stuff because you just felt like you could. And I did it. I did it. I almost gave my mom a heart attack. I was I was on the roof with like a blanket tied to my neck.
No,
I was about to
no.
jump. Seriously, I was about to jump.
Your
She
poor
came and
mom.
she, oh, I got in such big trouble. But I was like, for real on the roof. My buddies are on the bottom. I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, I would have died probably. But
You would have.
um,
You would have.
yeah, but what would and my thought when you were explaining like how they're going to be set in July, right? What they're doing right now as far as like marketing, learning marketing, right? Them talking to each other and stuff like that. I would love to see y'all do this, and I don't know if anybody would agree to it or not. But for y'all to go and brief, or for the kids to go and brief an adult board of directors
Yeah.
on their process, on how they
Yeah.
communicate, how they make decisions and stuff like that. I would love to see something like that because
Yeah.
it's like I said, I think it's just the fearlessness, right? I would love to hear the kids like just analyze like, just for example, like, oh, they're talking on that board of directors and Bob brings something up and Bob's like, oh, we shouldn't do that because of this, right? And I would love a kid to be like, why is he scared? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just feel like it can be, I don't know, maybe it can be a little powerful, just kind of witnessing the difference between how a board of directors of adults meets and how a board of directors of kids meet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, we're definitely going to record them, because obviously we'll need the minutes and everything
The
to
minutes,
to yeah. We still have to go
yeah,
through the full process, right?
yeah,
Um,
definitely, definitely.
but yeah, I'm very excited to see how these kids are going to operate, and I know that my daughter, she's very opinionated and she's got her ideas, so it'll be really cool to see all the other kids come together and be able to mutually decide on something, and
Yeah,
then pitch it to the adult board, um, for us to approve it, and then go from there. But I know that kids are the future, and
yeah,
and
definitely.
their ideas are just unbelievable, and I just think it's going to be really cool to see these kids like just
Yeah,
conquer.
and I got a question for you, I guess, more specifically, like from a leadership aspect, how do you feel? So, how you said your daughter is very opinionated. Obviously, she's very ambitious, right? How do you feel in a leadership aspect of like, okay, like what am I gonna do, right? I know you said before, do it messy, right? Does she kind of follow the same thought process, or do you see her doing it different? Like, what type of leader do you see her growing as?
Yeah, I think she's definitely her own person, and she's going to
Mhm.
go a completely different route than I would have even imagined. And I think as parents too, a lot of times, like I grew up a dancer. I love dance, and I'm so
Oh, okay,
grateful that my daughter like loves dance too. And so she's
nice.
a competitive dancer, and she loves it. Um, I'm like, do you want to quit dance? Because it's kind of expensive. Like,
Yeah,
back on this, and this so that I can do dance. And she's already processing how she's going to make it a yes, right? Oh, I always say like, how do we get to yes, right? So,
yeah,
but with Toys for Dogs, again, like I wasn't a huge like animal person, but like she
yeah,
is, and so I'll go all in. Like I will support her dreams, we'll make it happen. Like I'll use my background, client history, all the things so that I can help make her thing a success. But at the end of the day, like it's her, like the videos and the social media isn't going to happen if she's not doing it. And
yeah,
and so at the end of the day, like we want to empower them to do whatever it is that they want to do, but we have to step back, let them fail.
yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely, I would agree with that.
I really hope that she is able to kind of mitigate through all the different life challenges and everything that she goes through. But she's on her own journey. And if for some reason there's a fork in the road and she's like, actually, this isn't what I want to do anymore, and she decides to go on a different path, then that's her decision. It's her life. And there's been a couple of times she struggles in school. She has some anxiety when it comes to test taking and kind of time management when it comes to things. School's so quick, and so she's now started to think about her life goal, which was to become a veterinarian. And she's like, but if I can't do school now, how's it going to be in college? And I'm like, that's great to start thinking about this now. Like, what would be the backup plan? And she's like, well, I obviously I'm still going to work with dogs. And I'm like, yeah, obviously. And he's like, but I would be down with like grooming a dog or owning my own rescue. And I'm like, see, so it's just so important for us to kind of let kids lead themselves. And then we're there as like the support system, or you let them lead themselves until they put on the cape and want to jump off the roof. Right. And
then definitely step in at that moment. Definitely.
Let's not jump off the roof.
Yeah. No, that's great that you share that. What a process that I do in my program and I help clients with is painting the vision, right? And I teach them how to project a 5-year vision, right? And I call it a vision instead of a goal because your vision is going to change in 5 years, right? And I'm like, it's just a vision. And what I have them do is I have them write majority of the time is just a 2-page short story. I'm like, just sit down, write a short story about yourself, about if you're writing about the 5-year John, right? Hey, John woke up, and I was like, write it in the third person. John woke up this morning, like you're narrating a story, right, of your day 5 years from now, and you go into specifics of like John woke up at his farmhouse where he had 100 dogs. He walks outside with his cup of coffee and greets all the dogs, like. And it helps paint that picture of like, dude, this would be my perfect day 5 years from now. I would love to wake up like that. But I don't want you to make it a goal. I don't want you to be like, I need to buy this $5 million house with this 100 acres and stuff like that. No, it's just a vision. It's going to guide you that way because 2 years from now, something can happen and you shift completely. Right. So I'm like, it's just a vision to kind of get you there or kind of show you what you truly aspire to. But like you said, right, I feel like kids definitely can benefit from this because they're probably changing their minds all the time.
Yeah. Well, and they dream big. Like, I feel like for adults, we're life has beat us down a little bit, And so it's like, it's hard for us to kind of sit back and go, oh, like, how do I dream big? Like, realistically, this is what I see me doing, or realistically, this is where the job will end up going, right? But at the end of the day, these kids, they dream so big, like, and
that's great.
Yeah. And I think it's just so important for us and what I love so much about your vision activity is the way you put the feeling behind it, like the emotions there, because it's not going to come true if you're like, oh, it's going to be A, B, and C, X, Y, and Z. Like next thing you know, there's no feeling behind it. So there's no desire, and there's no, like when you close your eyes, can you actually see yourself being in the backyard, greeting your 500 dogs?
Yeah. And that's true. I mean, I share, and I'll be transparent with it. That's my vision, right? I gave you the example of my vision, right? And on my story, I share on there how I smell the coffee. The coffee smells fresh. I put on there, I'm hearing all the birds chatter while the dogs are hyper and running to me, barking because I'm awake. They see dad awake, right? I share on there like I'm walking down my wooden steps and hearing the creaks, right? As I step onto the grass and start walking towards the dogs. Like, so it's very much emotion I put on there. And one of the biggest things is I was like, I love being outside when I feel the first kiss of the sun on my face. Like, because it makes it an emotional process. It's not just, like you said, it's not a transactional process. It's a transformative process. right? I'm trying to transform my mind, like you said, because if I go to logical John is like, dude, man, you're gonna need like
This
$500,000
much
to do
money.
this. You're gonna need like to do this, and you're gonna need. Oh my
Who's
god,
going
you're
to be the
probably gonna have.
contractor?
Yeah, like, so I'm like, I don't want a transactional thought process. I want a transformative thought process, which is my emotion. I want to feel that, right? And that just fuels me. I don't have it like I know some people practice vision boards and stuff like that. I have my
Yeah.
story and little paper on my nightstand. I'm like, every once in a while, I'll just go through it and I'll just read it. I'm like, damn, dude, yeah.
How
Oh,
often
that'd be
do
a
you
great
read
day.
it?
Was that?
Yeah. How often do you read it?
Usually I read it like once a month. Yeah, but
Okay.
here's a kicker: I rewrite it every year.
Ooh, okay.
Yes. So,
Do you find
like I said,
it
it
changes a
changes.
lot or
Yeah,
not a lot?
yeah. Because 2 years, I want to say no, more than 2 years, 3, 4 years ago, my vision. I've been following my program for a while now because it was my personal development program before I made it like a business, and even following that vision. So, like 4 years ago, my vision was, oh, get promoted to director of operations for a company, right? Buy this 4 bedroom, 2 bath house kind of thing. Like it was very logical in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And what happened was a dog changed my life. So I say it on my story, and this is what kind of got me to where I am was I was utilizing my development program for my professional development. And what I realized, right, is I was only focusing on my professional development, right? I was growing, I was getting, better jobs and stuff, growing as a professional, as a leader and stuff, focusing a lot on taking courses that would help me with my communication at work and little things like that. And what happened was we met a dog, bought the dog for my wife. That dog ended up being my best friend, right? And 3 years in, I had to kill him. So what happened
What?
was the dog got very possessive and started fighting with my other dog, right? And I share this with I
Oh
share this story
no.
because it was a very spiritual journey for me. He was 3 years old. He turned out to like just be my buddy, even though I bought him for my wife, right? Um, Prior John was very closed off emotionally. He was a very transactional person,
Mm.
right? After Rocky, so what had happened was he started fighting with my other male dog, little bit here and there, and stuff like that. Then it started getting a little worse and a little worse. And then when we were having my stepson's birthday here at the house, full fight just kind of went off with everybody here. And it took me and two of my
Oh
neighbors to
no.
separate them. Like it was very bad. And it shook me.
Wow.
Like it shook me to my core. Like I was scared for him. Like I remember like my hands were shaking, like everything. And that was on a Saturday. And on Monday, like I was terrified of going to work because I was like, what if it happens again? What if it happens and my wife gets in the middle of
And
it?
you're
Like
not
my wife,
there.
you got to keep in mind, Rocky was like an 85-pound dog, and my other dog was like
Okay.
65 pounds. So my wife couldn't do anything about it, right? And
Yeah.
so we tried bringing him back in after that happened, and he tried charging at my stepson. So and
No.
I learned this, and yeah, what sucks is I learned this, and it's a whole lesson that I take, but I learned this after the fact. I'm like, dude, separating him from you, me showing him like I would show him most love, right? I would get home, I'll be like, hey, Bubba, what's up? I'll pick him up. I mean, he was like 85 pounds, just big old chubby thing, right? And I would just
Baby.
pick him up, and he was my baby, yeah. And I would sit on the
Yeah.
couch, he would fall asleep on my chest, like big old 85-pound baby, right? And learning after everything happened, it was the wrong way of doing it, right? It was teaching him how to be
Mm.
like, John belongs to me, not to y'all, kind of thing, right? I
Right.
learned that afterwards, but what happened was I ended up calling, me and my wife kind of went back and forth, and I told her, and this is why I talk about leadership so much, because I was doing great as a leader at work, but I was not doing great as a leader at home, right? And
Mm.
that moment came up where I had to be the leader that I needed to be for my family. And I had to decide whether we're giving Rocky away or whether we're putting him to sleep. right?
Yeah.
And when I was going through that process, the thought of giving him away, like, oh my God, infuriated me because
Yeah.
I thought of others mistreating him. Like that was
Well,
my
and
initial.
then you also don't know like how he's going to react.
Yes.
And it's like, is it going to be a different family? And the other hard part too is like 6.5 million animals end up in shelters every year. Only half of
Yes.
those get adopted. So then
And
like,
the rest get
are you going to
euthanized. Yeah.
then put him in a position where he's going to be aggressive when he goes into a shelter and they're automatically going to put him down? Or do you
Yeah.
put him
And
down with your family knowing that,
yes.
you know what I mean? You gave him 3
And
great
that's the
years,
hard.
you know?
Yeah. And that was the hardest part was I kept telling my wife, I'm like, I have to accept the fact that if I make this decision, like this is on me, right? Because I wasn't putting it on my wife to do it. So I was like, this is on me. If I make this decision to give him to somebody and he attacks another person's kid or kills another
Yeah.
person's kid or attacks a family, that's on me. If they decide like, hey, no, he's too aggressive and they just let him loose on the streets, he goes attack somebody, that's on me. And the worst thing was, so Rocky was an American bully. So
Oh,
if I
yeah.
gave him to a
No.
shelter, my fear would be that somebody would buy him for the wrong reasons and try fighting him.
Yeah.
And then one day it just kind of came to me where like, yes, I know we've had our problems and everything like that, but up until this point right now, Rocky has known nothing but love from me. Right.
Yeah.
I want him to go with me and just go with me being there with him. Right. And what happened was I called the vet. To my surprise, they said that they can fit me in 2 hours. And I was not prepared for that. I was like, 2 hours,
Oh,
like seriously, I thought you were gonna say like 2 days
yeah.
or something like that,
Yeah.
So yeah, we ended up taking Rocky. We took him. We kind of chilled with him here, sat with him on the couch. I just hugged him for a while. My wife did the same thing, and then took him down to his favorite park, walked him around for a while, let him run around and everything like that. Then we took him in. The people were very good with it. They were very like calm with it, and they nurtured us through it. They gave us a button that we had to push when we were ready. I couldn't push the button. I had to tell my wife to, and
Yeah.
to my surprise, and even to my wife's, like the John before, and my wife would tell me this so many times. She's like, "Babe, you have no heart." Like we would watch, we would watch movies, and like I wouldn't cry. There would be sad moments. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't feel nothing. And that day, it's like everything for the past 15 years came out. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't stop
Yeah.
yelling. Like I'm sorry to him. I couldn't stop yelling I love you to him. Like I must have yelled that thing like 100 times. Like, and I just hugged him, like just seeing him flop over and stuff. Like, it like killed me, right? And so yeah, I just hugged him for a while, and I just kind of sat there with him, and just like I laid right next to him, like holding him, like he always fell asleep, and I was just like, I remember telling my wife that I was like, I just want him to open his eyes, like just get him to open his eyes. That's it, right? Like it didn't work. I can take him home right now, right? And I mean, obviously, it didn't. He didn't open his eyes or
Yeah.
anything like that. So after a while, we had to leave. But after that happened, um, and I couldn't tell you if this was happening before or not, but it was about a week and a half after we had put him down, right? I had took off of work because I was devastated, right? And me and my wife we were driving, we were running an errand, and I didn't realize that we were on the road passing that vet clinic, right? So I start crying, and I'm just like getting very emotional, and I'm like,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And the thing that I noticed was there was a sign, like a big sign on the side of the road. I think it was like a real estate sign or something like that. But I just remember the last numbers reading 3333, right? And I just remember like it caught my eye. I was like, okay, yeah, whatever, right? And I tell my wife at that time, I was like, babe, I was like, hey, look up somewhere where we can go eat, right? Get something for lunch. So she starts looking something up, and I notice I'm coming up to a light, and I notice the same sign right there, right next to the light with the same number 3333. So I'm like, all right. Then my wife tells me, hey, when you get to the light, do a turnaround. There's a restaurant 3 minutes back. So I'm like, okay. So I turned around, and I see like a little bit up the road, I see the same sign with 3333. So at that point, I start telling my wife, I'm like, dude, like I don't know what's going on. Like I keep seeing threes. right? She's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I saw the signs, 3, 3. Then you say there's a restaurant 3 minutes back. Then we turn around, I see threes again. So she's like, what the hell? I was like, yeah, I don't know. And we get to the restaurant, we go in, there's nobody else there. And my wife wanted to sit in the back, and I was like, no, I was like, look, let's sit up here, let's sit towards the front so the waitress doesn't have to walk all the way to the back. So she's like, all right. So I just grabbed the booth or whatever, sit down. And as soon as we pull the menus from the thing, it reads table number 3. Right.
Okay.
So at that point, I knew something. Like I knew something was going on. I knew something
you've
was
had all
happening.
The signs.
Yes. So I looked it up, and it was like 3 is the number of the Holy Trinity, right? It's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's a divine message from your angels, right? And I broke down. I broke down in the restaurant, right? Because I kept telling my wife that there was only one thing that I wanted to know, right? I kept crying. I couldn't let it go. And there was only one thing. And I was like, I want to make sure that he sorry. I want to make sure that like he forgives me and that he like knows I did it right for the right reasons. Like I did it with love, right? And I was like, how will I ever know that he's okay? Right. And she's the one that like I took that moment as like he answered me. Like he's like, I'm okay. Right. I'm good. Still love you, Dad. Right. Everything. And I share it on my book.
Yeah.
Like after that, it's like numbers appear to me so frequently now. So I was writing my book. I saw 555s when I was writing my book. I remember this was probably like 3 weeks after we went to a thrift shop. We were just shopping around and we were going to let my stepson just pick a toy. Right. And of course, it's still on my mind. Right. And I'm just walking through books. And I remember the first book I moved, there was a little book. There's a little book behind it. I actually have it next to my bed. There's a little book behind it. It was called 52 Devotionals for Dog Lovers. It was a little brown case with little pink footprints on it, little pink and brown footprints on it for dogs. Yeah. So I was like, okay. So I picked it up, right? Tell me why I never knew about the Rainbow Bridge, right? I'm sure you know what it is, right?
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I never knew about the Rainbow Bridge. And I remember when I was kind of coping with it and dealing with everything, I was looking it up and it was like, oh, it's a place where your dog kind of meets you, right? And y'all both, you come over, what does it say? Like you come over the Rainbow Bridge and as you're on the top of the bridge, your dog sees you and they run over to you and y'all both walk into heaven together, right? Well, tell me why Rocky's favorite park is called Rainbow Hills. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just this big transformative journey that I took in myself because I was doing everything that I felt like I needed to be doing to grow as a professional leader. But personally, I was lacking a lot. And that's what really just flipped me around to look at the development program that I was working at and everything that I was missing on the personal development side. So it was, it was
emotion really does need to play into everything else.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I say it all the time. I'm like, man, he's my guardian angel, man. That's how I look at it. Like I was meant to, like God sent him to me. I was meant to have him. I was meant to love him, and I was meant to lose him to learn a lesson. Yeah. So I know that was a lot, but kind of went in.
It's such a beautiful story. It's sad and beautiful all at the same time. Yeah. And it hurts to lose anyone or anything in your life. And so thank you for sharing that because it really does connect. Like business to life to family, emotion, love it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I think that's where I truly feel, and I can imagine like the amount of love that your daughter has when she's helping these dogs, when she's helping people. Like you can't, I don't know, then maybe it's just me. Can't be around a bunch of dogs and not feel love. Like I remember, what was it? I remember somebody had shared, I think I saw it like.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times she's laying at events, like, and the dogs are swarming her. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could never.
Yeah. I remember I think I saw it somewhere. It was like a quote or somebody just like screenshot it or something, but they're like, dog spelled backwards is God. And I was just like I never thought of that. And I was like,
Oh,
oh
I've
my
never
God.
seen that.
Yeah. And they were like, why do you think like dogs are like just affectionate? They are loving, they're forgiving, they're like everything, right? And it was just a thing of somebody was sharing like the dog's lifespan, right? And how they affect your life, right? And they're like, oh, dog's man's best friend and
Mhm.
everything like that. And the guy was sharing his perspective because he was a man talking about his dog that he had just lost. And he's like, dude, this dog, man, and this just took everything out of me, man. Like took everything. He was like the biggest thing that I loved and everything like that. And he's like, it's no wonder why dog spelled backwards is God. It's God's way of touching you, of touching your heart. And I was just like, oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes. So,
I love
yeah.
that.
So
I
yeah,
always
I'm
love I always love the one where it's like we may only love them for part of our life, but they love us for their whole entire life. And it's like,
yes.
gosh, like you don't even think about that, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we are their life, for their whole life.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. And I love I love this conversation because it shows that there's a reason why I named my company Lead in Life, right? Because
Hmm.
it's not lead in work. It's not lead in career.
Yeah.
It's be a leader in your life, right? And this is where I guess the epiphany came to me because of going through this experience, because of going through what I did, right? And it's no wonder like it's no wonder like the things that happen to me, right? I'm not a big believer in coincidences. I think everything happens for a reason. And I am
100%.
here, talking to you about dogs, right? Where you can relate. You can relate to the story. Like it's just I don't feel that's a coincidence, right? And I don't feel like me going through what I went through with my dog and everything like that. Like I feel it was purposeful. It got me to a different area of my life and my leadership role, right? I am more aware now of how I am loving my family. I am more aware now of am I
Mm.
showing love to my son, my stepson, my stepdaughter, my wife? Am I showing love to my mother, my sisters, my other dogs? I'll see dogs out in the street. Like I'll see any dog pass by my house, and I'm like, oh, it's a stray. Hey, come here, bud. I'll go inside, run, get some food, get some water, everything. Like it's just making me. And
You're
one
one of
thing
the
that it made.
500. Come.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's one. Oh, trust me. If I have to like control myself sometimes, and I have to control my
499 to
wife.
go.
Yeah, no, I have to control myself and like my wife sometimes because I'm like, if we didn't have that control, our entire backyard would be filled right now. Like she'll be like, babe, oh my god, I was over there and there's this dog like where Rocky used to run. It's a little brown dog with like blue eyes, babe. He's so beautiful, and I'm like, babe, hey, we can't even fit another dog right now. Like, and I'm like, let's take it to water.
498.
Let's take it. Yeah, 498.
Where's
Just building in a building.
497?
So, yeah, but no, it's great going through that because it reminded me of something, right? It reminded me of reevaluating my values, right? And now my number one value is love. I lead everything with love, right? I talk to you with love to learn, to grow, to help you. Like, so everything that I do now is just focus on that, right? And I feel like that's a big part of leadership, understanding like why you're doing stuff, and for who really too. So,
Yeah.
but hey, Tiffany, I know we're running short on time. I know we went into a lot. Um, I appreciate it though. Hey, I'm having fun. So, but yeah, let me ask you this, and I love asking this of the
Same.
of the people. It's do you have like a favorite quote, favorite book, or favorite podcast that you think others should either listen to, read, or
Oh, great.
I know
Okay,
you
so
already
there's
shared a
one
couple.
book. So I have a book and kind of a quote. Okay, so a book and a quote. Um, Both of them really, I can't even share how much they impact my life, like
Okay.
tenfold. It's like immeasurable. The first one is a book. It's called The Compound Effect. I read it every year or twice a year. I believe it's Darren Hardy who writes the book. And it basically talks about creating tiny stackable habits. One small little thing can lead to something big. So it's like start small and it just keeps compounding. Whether it's like you're on a fitness journey and it's like, okay, well, I want to drink an extra bottle of water every day. It's one bottle of water. That's it. One extra bottle, right? Yeah. But that compound effect will slowly lead to weight loss or whatever it is your goal is, right? Yeah. Same with, your business goals. It's setting that one thing, like, how am I supposed to get here? The only way for me to get there is let me reach out to 3 PR marketing companies every day. I'll send the same script of, my book or podcast or whatever it is, right? But tiny little things every day will then lead to something bigger. Nice. Now, my favorite quote isn't necessarily a quote. It is a poem. And I'm going to challenge everyone to look up Linda Ellis, The Dash. And essentially the whole poem talks about living your dash. So the date you're born to the date you die, what matters most is the dash in between the years. And I have done something kind of silly, but each month I do a dash day. So it's just me doing goofy things. But I start the morning watching the sunrise, and then I'll do things all day long that are things that are either on my bucket list or something that I've never done before. So, things that have ended up on the list are like skydiving and I'll just do crazy things. Or, hey, there's that hike that I want to try. And there's that, Thai restaurant I haven't been to yet that I want to try. And so I'll spend the whole entire day doing dash day items. And then you end the day watching the sunset. So it's a full dash day of just fun.
Nice. And who was the author again? I'm writing this down.
Linda Ellis, Ellis, I think. And if you just look up The Dash, she'll pop up. But it's an amazing poem. I can never read the whole thing without crying because it's so important for people to, you only have this time, right? So it's like, how do you live your dash?
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely looking into that. I am definitely looking into that. So awesome. I appreciate that. And no, I appreciate you being on. I know we went a little over time, but I appreciate you being on, sharing your perspective, talking a little bit about your daughter and the enormous aspirations that she's going to be having and doing and stuff. And yeah, I'm glad we connected. And if you can, just share a little bit about how you help people and where they can kind of find you.
Great. Yeah, so I work with businesses and I do client development training. So individual coaching for clients to help them improve their time management and project management skills by delegating effectively to their employees or staff. And then I also have my own company where I do public speaking events and things like this. And then I also help manage people's companies and help build and grow them. So I do the back end operations, development, PR, and marketing. I mean, I wear a lot of hats, but it's always so fun to work with, clients that are on, the beginning stages of expanding their businesses. And so that's what I do for a living, which is great. They can find me on social media, Tiffany Blasco. And then I'm also the registered founder of Toys for Dogs. And then you have the contact information there. We're an official nonprofit. You'd be supporting dogs all over the United States, which is really cool.
Awesome. Tiffany, I can't thank you enough for giving us the time today, sharing your insights, sharing your journey. And, we do this for value for others so they can just gain some perspective, see what other leaders are doing, what other, leaders overcame and the fears they're overcoming and how they're getting there, right? And yeah, if y'all got anything, guys, y'all want to help out some dogs, right? Reach out to Tiffany, toysfordogs.org, right? And if you need some help with project management skills, time management skills, or you just want to talk further and see how Tiffany can help you, man, definitely reach out to her. Follow her Facebook. I'm following along. I can't wait to see the kid board of directors picture on there.
Same. Thank you so much, John. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Tiffany. Have a good one. Thank you.